guys, Eric and Joey here to talk about the big new Iron Man 3 trailer. Quick note here, we're going to go into things we know from the comic books that may or may not happen in this film, but also I'm going to talk about some stuff at a press event. This was a big official Disney Marvel press day where they showed us about 20 minutes of the movie that took place starting about 25 minutes in. So that being the case, some spoilers will happen, nothing from the second half of the film, but if you don't want to know these cool little tidbits,
this is your chance.
This is your
Turn this off.
Or turn it off. Or come back.
But I really love this trailer. It's really exciting, and it's got me way more pumped for this movie than anything else that I've seen from it has.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how the film looked already, but there's definitely some great stuff in this one.
It looks like this movie is about Iron Man, which I can't say for Iron Man 2.
No, yeah,
so
exactly.
That's pretty exciting for me.
There's no more setting up another movie here.
Yeah.
Here is a big spoiler just from a moment of the film, but here you go. That is not Tony Stark wearing the armor.
Ooh,
interesting. That is Pepper Potts with Maya Hansen. This is the sequence that you see later where the house is attacked and Tony uses his extremis technology to pull the armor onto Pepper to get her to safety. So we should say it's not like Pepper is now Iron Man, is now a hero. She doesn't even seem to know that he's going to do this or how to control the armor really. But he does this and says, you get the two of you to safety first.
That's interesting, though, because in the recent years in the comics, Pepper Potts, or Tony built Pepper her own armor. It doesn't have combat capabilities,
right.
So she's called Rescue, and it's really just search and rescue missions that she goes on. So I'm curious if maybe they'll go in that direction at all.
Yeah, you have to wonder if that might set up something else. It's just this first moment of her in the armor, and it's like, hey, maybe it can lead to something else. Let's talk here just briefly about this is the introduction of William Sadler as President Sal Kennedy. Sal Kennedy is a character from the Extremis comic book storyline, but a very different character. He was a scientist who was a mentor to Tony. So very different interpretation here as a politician as the president. In the comics, Mandarin killed Sal Kennedy. So again, it's such a different way of portraying the character, who knows, but just putting that out there.
That's interesting because I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've seen, aside from S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't think we've seen any like government agents or government agencies or politicians or anything like that.
No, just really that sort of shadow cabal in Avengers. This is kind of the first, here's really the authority of America being presented here.
Yeah.
And then, also that sequence we were seeing War Machine, now Iron Patriot, has kind of America's official superhero, as it were. Cap is back, but this guy is much more sort of doing, what they say as a soldier.
Doing the bidding, yeah. It's interesting, too, because Iron Patriot in the comics was, of course, Norman Osborn, but obviously they've gone in a different direction, but it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely about sort of the response to Avengers they've mentioned and the idea that the government feels like they need to have someone official out there with what happened in Avengers.
Right.
Yeah, we've got the press here, and obviously seeing the chaos caused by Mandarin. This is Aldrich Killian, played by Guy Pearce, another character from the Extremis storyline in the comics. And in Extremis, he co-created the Extremis technology with Maya Hansen. In the film, he's working for Mandarin, so we are just wondering, did he also co-create Extremis in this film, but now he's kind of taken that technology off for his own nefarious purposes?
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe he's selling it to the highest bidder without their knowledge.
Right, and Mandarin would be that highest bidder.
The question, where is Tony Stark?
See that guy with the flip phone?
Yes,
cool.
Yes. And we get here some stuff here we want to show. Earlier in the film, we got this in the trailer, I should say, we got a glimpse of the new Iron Man armor on this platform.
Yeah.
But here, there's something below that platform.
You can see some stuff below the surface, and in just a few seconds, you'll see the other armor from the other movies just blowing up. But clearly, down below, he's got some new. You can see them sort of half finished.
Yep.
So maybe they're prototypes, some new armor that he's working on, which will make sense later on when we see a bunch of armor come flying in the very last scene of this trailer.
Right, which I think explains that no, Tony does not sort of miraculously build that many suits of armor within the course of the events of this film. He was already working on those armors. And this is obviously sort of the big center. The centerpiece, literally, of the film, the attack on Tony's house that happens, and the destruction of Tony's house.
Yeah, and we haven't touched on it yet, but we get to really hear Mandarin's voice in this trailer, and he's got some very interesting speech patterns.
Sort of guttural.
Yeah, very interesting choices from Ben Kingsley.
And here, I should say, one other thing we saw in the footage is this is Tony's choice to blow up the armors. The house is getting the hell blown out of it, and he tells Jarvis, blow the armors, because he doesn't want the possibility of Mandarin getting to them. But some other press, I didn't catch this, some other press caught, there is a line about, is the wine cellar secure or something
Ooh.
like that, which is clearly got to be the reference to the hidden compartment below.
So maybe he's been working on these like extreme armors for quite some time. That was a sweet giant bunny that I just saw go by.
And then, yeah, just to explain to you sort of the sequence of events here, the house is attacked. He puts the armor onto Pepper to get to safety. And once she and Maya are outside, that's when he, uses the extremis like the Force to pull the armor back inside the house and onto him.
That's pretty awesome. This looks like a very exciting sequence, I must say.
I must say it is an exciting sequence. And, we've seen these glimpses before. This is in the aftermath of that. The armor almost completely destroyed. It's barely working. He passes out telling Jarvis, get me somewhere. And basically when he wakes up, he asks Jarvis, where are we? And Jarvis tells him Tennessee shortly before the armor kind of shuts down on him completely.
So this isn't the Arctic tundra.
Not the Arctic tundra. There is modern civilization nearby, but Tony does want to kind of be, off everyone's radar at this point because he saw what happened, and by making himself such a public target and making Pepper a target, he'd rather kind of be no one knows where he is.
Right. That's pretty interesting. Lots of I love this Mandarin stuff because it just sort of implies this sort of cult like organization.
Yeah, he's got all these people with him, and Shane Black has talked about basically the influence here was Colonel Kurtz, character, Marlon Brando's character from Apocalypse Now. The idea of a military leader, someone very highly trained, who has kind of gone off the rails, gone down the river, and has his own agenda now. And no one really knows his ethnicity, his nationality, just the fact that he is highly trained and that he has been gathering these people who will do his bidding.
Also noticed that giant gun just sitting by his side, just in case, I guess.
Just in case. Yep. Oh, and then here is something we were talking quite a bit about earlier.
Yeah, we don't think that is War Machine or one of the other. That looks like Tony Stark's Iron Man.
Yeah.
But we're not quite sure who that shirtless man is. But you have some theories, Eric.
I do. We know that James Badge Dale has been cast as Eric Savin, a character from Marvel Comics who was the cyborg Coldblood. We really haven't seen him, and so I'm guessing that might be him. It's just, who is this sort of shirtless guy who dares to fight Iron Man at all?
Yeah.
And so this is my idea that he is kind of some sort of mercenary, some sort of, highly trained guy who can fight Iron Man at all. And we have this idea about possibly Extremis being used by Mandarin and Aldrich Killian for their own purposes, so maybe he's been sort of enhanced.
Yeah, we'll see some of these scenes that implied. Actually, this scene coming up here,
right?
With Pepper, and then later on you'll see a whole row of people, and it looks like they're being experimented on, or maybe injected with the Extremis virus, or whatever you'd like to call it.
Yeah,
that's this right here.
Right, you've got all these people. Pepper seems to be in the same situation.
Yeah.
And so again, we're theorizing maybe this is some sort of version of Extremis, which was basically a super soldier program in the comic books.
Right.
Yes, Tony uses it in conjunction with his armor, but it doesn't have to be used in conjunction with Iron Man armor. So maybe they're all kind of being turned into
maybe they're being turned into super soldiers, or maybe Killian couldn't crack the code, and Tony had helped him do it somehow, and he stole it and used it for his own purposes or something. I don't know, but this right here is really interesting to me. It's a very Shane Black-esque moment.
Yeah, and it's just a badass moment.
Yeah, you can see, Tony is just fighting with an Uzi and one gauntlet.
Yeah, and Shane Black and Robert Downey Jr. have teased this. This is all we've seen from this sequence, but they've teased a sequence where Tony only has one gauntlet, I think maybe one boot from the armor, and just kind of the idea of him having to get out of a really dangerous situation with that little of his armor, and it looks like it's going to be pretty damn cool.
That sounds really fun and action-y.
And here is Pepper Potts in her underwear.
Yeah.
And again, besides the fact that, hey, look, she's in her underwear. Why is she in her underwear? We have no idea. This is not the attack on the house. This is some other industrial place she's at. And so, again, theorizing, we wonder, is she in her underwear because she's been experimented on, the whole Extremis idea?
Yeah, maybe this is the escape.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Something near the end here.
Lots of people falling through the sky.
Yes,
to their
indeed.
doom.
Then we got Mandarin here. Definitely, he's got some messaging going on with an American dollar redeemed through blood.
Yeah. Also holding blades, it looks like.
Yeah. And
so
again,
he's not intimidating at all.
No,
really.
I don't think he's not getting political or anything. And then a
really cool moment here
Yeah.
of Tony jumping into a flying armor.
Yes, indeed. which kind of sets up here the end.
This is the big money shot. This is the shot that everyone's talking about, and the thing that really just got me amped for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all these different armors flying in, and there's a couple recognizable ones, not all of them from the movies. You can see as they all come in, that big bulky red one on the end there. It looks like the ultimate version of Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had another one that you.
I was
pointed
saying
out.
the one sort of right, next to the one in the center that's so dark and kind of a dark blue. I have a feeling is kind of a variation on the stealth armor that Tony has used many times in the comics.
And then, of course, the big one that everyone I freaked out about it, but the Hulkbuster armor.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be some armor you'd use to bust a Hulk. We don't think that Mark Ruffalo is secretly in this movie or anything. There's no Hulk in this movie, but just the idea that this armor exists. And if Tony would need to fight the Hulk, say, at some point.
I think he might have to at some point.
I think he might have to as well. This armor exists, setting up a lot. So, yeah, lots of cool stuff and still plenty of questions we have about how this all kind of pieces together. And we're going to find out in just a couple months. Thanks for listening, guys.